Everyone, back in the more YouTube channel. Is Chris back with my rant stroke thought of the day. It's been a while since I've come back with a rant of the day. Sorry for all of you who have missed me in the meantime. I've obviously been very zen, very calm, very relaxed. But don't worry, I flicked on social media earlier and I did happen to see somebody who flicked my switch. He has done before and he's done it again. It's a Hall of Famer media Muppet, to be honest with you. Hot Take O'Hara, as I'm going to call him in this video. Jamie O'Hara, a bang average former footballer who is talking about players he was nowhere near the level of, certainly today in the shape of Alexander Isak and even Wissa as well from Brentford. So he was on Sky Sports on one of the news shows and he was talking about the Alexander Isak and Wissa situation. And get this, honestly, this actually came out of a human being's mouth. He said that the football clubs, as in Newcastle and Brentford, are holding these players to ransom. That's what this man actually said, live with a camera in front of his face. Wow, that is crazy, right? You're talking about one guy, Alexander Isak in Newcastle United, who's on 140 grand a week. He's got 3 years left on a 6-year contract. He's idolized as a god. He's just won the club's first trophy in 70 years. He was part of the parade where hundreds of thousands of Geordies came and worshipped him like some god, some Swedish god that ascended from the clouds down to the streets of Tyneside. That's not been held to ransom, Jamie O'Hara. Go and look up some of the atrocities in the world with people being kidnapped and held to ransom. You don't have to look very far in this modern day world because it's happening all of the time. That is a ridiculous take and a ridiculous statement to say live on TV. And same with Wissa as well. Now, these two players, I've seen Liverpool fans throwing this and Newcastle fans all over the place. There'll be comments on this video right now, I guarantee you. So there is a subtle difference between the two players. I don't condone either one of their actions, right? Alexander Isak is behaving like a spoiled brat, largely pushed by his agent, who I'll get into that fat, greedy bastard in a minute, but largely pushed by his agent because they don't want to be seen to be weak, as in going back to play for Newcastle. So Newcastle suddenly stopped looking for centre-forwards. They've been trying all summer for centre-forwards, mate. Can't get them for whatever reason. Can't get them, right? Mainly because we can't pay the wages. That's why we can't get them, right? Because we signed yours player, 3 years ago from Sociedad on a medium wage, and we've given him double the wage that he was on there. Yes, he's been brilliant for us, but there isn't many Alexander Isaks around anymore to get from Sociedad and bring in to do that because all the other clubs are sniffing around them and giving them twice the amount of money. Benjamin Sesko point in question. But going back to the situation, so Alexander Isak is halfway through a 6-year contract with Newcastle that he signed. He didn't sign under duress. He wasn't held hostage to sign that contract. This ain't Iron Man with a hood over his head, the great Tony Stark. That's not what we're doing. He signed that contract with his agent in tow, this greedy, parasitic bastard who's forcing this move to Liverpool, mainly because he's an old bastard. He's going to retire after this. This deal will give him 15 million quid. He'll go buy himself a nice big yacht and sun his big, fat, greedy belly in the middle of the Mediterranean, probably with his 23-year-old wife, I'd imagine. That's why he wants this deal for Alexander Isak go Liverpool. It's nothing to do with the player. It's all about the green, the reddies. These agents have got way too much power. That's something I do agree with Dean Saunders, a TalkSport pundit as well. So there you go. I'm not slagging them all off. Some of them do talk a little bit of sense. Agents have way too much power. And this whole Alexander Isak thing has been driven by his agents and the media narrative as well. But the situation with Isak is he's halfway through a 6-year contract that he signed. There was no written agreements to say he would get what Amanda Staveley allegedly promised him, right? That's his fault. That's his agent's fault for not looking at the contract and going, you put that in writing. Who in the right mind in the last 25 years has signed a contract of employment and somebody's promised them, hey, don't worry, Dave, after the first year, we're going to double your bubble, mate. It's not in the contract. Oh, don't worry about it, Dave. It'll be fine. No, you put it in the contract. You put it in writing. You make it legislative and then you sign it, right? Because a gentleman's agreement and a promise, right, is a fugazi. It's fucking fairy dust. It's not real, as they say in The Wolf of Wall Street, right? It doesn't exist. It's nonsense. Unless it's in writing, it does not exist. And everybody should know that. In the last 30 years, the amount of contracts that have exchanged hands for numerous things in this world, how is a football agent who's paid handsomely, by the way, stupid enough to just agree to somebody's word, right? That's Isak and Wissa as well, right? All this stuff of a gentleman's agreement from, former board owners, board members at Newcastle or chairman at Brentford, unless it's in print, it doesn't exist. So Isak and Wissa, you made your bed, you're lying it, lads. Unfortunately, you signed a contract, you've agreed to stay there, then that's where you are. The difference now between Isak and Wissa has 1 year left on his contract. I don't blame Brentford for trying to extract as much money from Newcastle as humanly possible. They know Newcastle are in a bit of a situation, right? Forget Isak for a second. We don't have a Wilson replacement. The club have really ballsed this up. They've left this right to the last minute. I don't know whether they thought Callum was going to sign a pay-as-you-play deal like he signed at West Ham. Not a great debut for him, by the way, the weekend. Sunderland did a real number on them, didn't they? But if Newcastle thought he was going to sign that, and that's why they've left it so late, they've left themselves in a really bad situation. They haven't signed the Wilson replacement, never mind the Isak replacement after he's threw his toys out the pram. So Newcastle in a real bad situation now where the star striker, the main man they were building the whole team around, wants to leave. He's made that very clear that he wants to leave. And the Wilson replacement isn't even in through the door. So Newcastle have been in a terrible situation right now, an awful situation that they never wanted to be. In this transfer window, there's been some positives, right? Alanga's a positive. Malik Chow's a positive. Jacob Ramsey's a positive. They're three good signings. Even Ramsdale might turn out to be a good goalkeeper. That's four decent signings. But this striker situation is an absolute mess. Newcastle really, really fucked up here. And it's the hardest position to sign in world football. It really, really is. The hardest job to do is put it in the back of the net. And that's why you pay the premium. But Brentford, are you taking a piss a little bit? Yes. If Gonzalo Ramos at PSG is worth 60 million, Wissa with 1 year left in his contract is not worth 60 million quid. Brentford are trying it on, right? And I can't blame them in a way. But what's going to happen here, right? Wissa has 1 year left on his contract, okay? Good, simple maths here for any of the plastic Liverpool fans. Give me in the comments. 1 year left in his contract. If this deal doesn't happen in Newcastle and he stays at Brentford, he stays for 1 year, then he leaves for nothing. Alexander Isak has 3 years left on his contract. If he doesn't go to Liverpool this window, is he going to stay in Newcastle and not play for 3 years? Wissa has gone back to train. Wissa was told he wasn't going to be in the squad by the manager. He hasn't rejected playing. He's been told he's not playing. So that's the difference between these two players. Eddie Howe, smacking my mic here, I'm so excited. Eddie Howe said he wants Isak to play. He wants him to train, but the player doesn't want to do it. Doesn't he want to go to the awards ceremony to get an award because he doesn't want to be asked difficult questions? I mean, if you're going to go out and mouth off in public through your agents and through whichever media influencer, buddy, transfer guru that you have in your pocket, then be expected to answer difficult questions or just say no comment, Alex, and move on. Wear your nice tuxedo, look sharp, do your thing, and off you go back home, right? But no, he doesn't want to be in the media spotlight, right? So you've got to look at this situation. I'm not trying to absolve Isak here, but if his agent's in his ear and his agent's telling him to act a certain way, and even somebody at Liverpool, by the way, you look at this independent football regulator cannot come in soon enough for me because all aspects of football need to be looked at. Transfer dealings, influencers and media as well also have to be looked at because this is becoming a real thing. This window has made it so apparent that this is a real thing. Agents feeding stories to journalists, to football influencers, these kind of people that get things out there to start fires. This is definitely a thing that an independent regulator needs to look at, in my opinion. But that is for people way more qualified than me to discuss that situation. I'm just a bloke mouthing off on a microphone. But going back to the situation, if he's actually been badly advised by his representative, right, then he's a 25-year-old grown man. Eddie Howe and him have a good relationship. The players and him had a good relationship. I'm not sure that's there anymore. The fans and him had a great relationship. That ain't there anymore. We heard that at the weekend. I'll get onto that in a second, by the way. You probably wonder what I think about that. I'll tell you in a second. But Isak has an opportunity there as a grown-ass man to say, hey, do you know what? I'm going to go and play because this isn't looking good for me. It's damaging my reputation in the world of football. People are now questioning my character, and I can't be done with that. I need to go back and train and play and do whatever the manager needs to do, and that's it. Newcastle aren't going to stop looking for a striker. I'm not going to tell him I'm going to stay, but I will play. He's got all the control to fix this problem. He doesn't want to do it, right? So either he's a bad egg, he's a bad character, or he's badly advised, or it's a bit of both, really, right? So that's an ugly situation for Isak. Going on to the Wissa situation, he's also behaving quite petulantly as well. To delete all the Brentford stuff from his social media is something a 14-year-old boy would do. We said, grow up. You're a grown-ass man. You're nearly 30 years old, mate. Act your age and behave yourself. If you're still contracted to Brentford for another year, you haven't got Newcastle yet, you are contracted to play for Brentford. Go and train. Make yourself available to play. Look what Eze and Mark Gahey did at the weekend. Both played against Chelsea. A bit of a weird one with Gahey and Glasgow when he walked off the pitch and stuff like that. But Eze scored a very, very good goal, by the way, which should never have been ruled out. What a load of nonsense that was. They played professionals. That's what Alexander Isak should have done all along. That's what Wissa should be doing as well. The pair of them are acting like a couple of babies, as Roy Keane would say, you big baby, you big baby. They need to grow up, the pair of them, and stop acting like a couple of babies. You're professional footballers and you're grown-ass men. Act your age and stop being so petulant. But this whole situation is a mess for Newcastle. I'm so sick of these striker situations. I'm sick of the conversations. But going on to Jamie O'Hara on Sky, absolute nonsense, this bloke. The way he was talking, it's such a arrogant, deluded viewpoint from the situation. The players are not held to ransom. That is a ridiculous statement and comment. They're under contract, right? As a footballer, he should know that. When you're under contract, you're under contract. If somebody wants to take you out of that contract early, they pay the fee it would take to get you out of that contract. Newcastle won 130 to 150 million. Liverpool ain't paying it. They haven't released the player from the 3 years left that he has to run on his contract. Wissa, it was supposed to be 40 million, now it's 60 million. So there's an issue there, with Brentford, Newcastle, and the player. So that is a different situation to the Isak situation in my mind. It's not the same. Liverpool fans want it to be the same because they want justification as to why Isak's behaving the way he is. There is no justification for that. And there's also no justification for Wissa's actions either, just to give you a little bit of context there. But to see Jamie O'Hara on TV talking absolute nonsense again, Sky Sports are going to be better than this. Get better people on than that. The guy's not interested in listening to somebody's point of view. He's just mouthing off. The lad from Black and White Banter was on there. He gave as good as you got, to be fair to him. He pulled O'Hara. Big respect to him for that. And he said he was talking absolute nonsense about the Ransom thing. Jamie O'Hara turned around and said, well, he doesn't want to be there. He wants to move on to a bigger club, He said bigger club 3 or 4 times, right? We know Liverpool's a bigger club. You're doing it to stick the boot in O'Hara, right? In fact, he was managing Billericay not too long ago, right? This ain't no Steven Gerrard we're talking about here, right? This guy couldn't even lace Steven Gerrard's kids' boots, let alone Steven Gerrard's boots. He was a mediocre player at best. And he's now a Katie Hopkins-style pundit that just says things for clicks on a garbage radio station, really, that just winds people up with rage bait. That's all he is. Sky need to do better than have a guy like that on the TV. The Black and White Battle lad did well. I think he really held his own against him. But the maddest thing about Jamie O'Hara, and it shows you the nonsense that he's talking, he says, go and sell the player and use the 120 million to buy 3 players, right? 3 players, okay? Who are you buying for that, Jamie O'Hara? Who are you buying for that? So that's 40 million quid a player, right? Wissa is 60 million. Is what Brentford want. He's got 1 year left in his contract. Okay. Mateta from Palace would probably be 50 or 60 million. There's 120 on 2 players. So who's your third player, mate? Who's your third player for 120 million? Is it a free transfer? Because you still got to pay him the wages or sign a non-fee. Nonsense. No research, just talking shit, pure verbal diarrhea from people like Jamie O'Hara. I'd expect nothing less, really, from Hot Take O'Hara, which is now his new nickname on the channel. But absolute nonsense. This whole thing is so tiring and laborious. I'm sick of it. Honestly, I want the window to shut. I'd be happy with the window to shut right now and Newcastle just make do with what they've got. Isak's still at the club. He's got a choice there to either, sack up and go and play and stop being a big baby, right? Or rot in the reserves for a whole year and just off you fuck, mate, and no one's bothered about you. We'll make do with Asula and Gordon, and Sean Neve for the season, just see how we get to January, which is horrendous, by the way, for Newcastle. That's the last thing they should be doing. But I'm so sick of this window and all this noise around Isak. I just wish it was over. I wish it was over. The 1st of September cannot come soon enough for me. But let us know in the comments below what you think about all Hot Take O'Hara and that kind of nonsense. Going back to the thing, actually, I nearly forgot all about it, my word. So there was a big furore about Sky's edit of the Aston Villa crowd noise. Now, a weird one, this. I don't want to go in too hard on this because I don't know why somebody would have done this. I don't know the context behind it, right? I saw Keith Downey, the old Silver Fox, was trying to answer Newcastle fans on social media. He doesn't have to do that, Keith. Big respect, Keith, for that. Keith's a great guy. I don't know the channel before. Not only is he a great guy, but the way he took down old Goldbridge United was brilliant, to be fair. He's my hero. I have loads of heroes now, to be fair. But yeah, Keith is a legend. So anyway, going back to the situation. So Newcastle fans, as we all know, I watched that game. Newcastle fans were brilliant to the players on the pitch and Eddie Howe. The players went over, gave a big round of applause. They got loads of chants, loads of singing, Eddie Howe's Black White Army, all that kind of stuff. And then when the players went away, and Anthony Gordon in particular was getting interviewed by TNT Sports, which I was watching, the fans made their voices heard and they sang, there's only one greedy bastard, and then they also sang, I don't care about Isak, you don't care about me, All I care about is NUFC, which was the old Mike Ashley chant changed into Isak. That shows you how far his stock has fell with the fans. Now, this weird edit on Sky Sports, and whoever's involved with the edits behind the scenes has dropped a clanger here. They seem to edit it up that when, by the looks of it, to the naked eye, if you didn't know anything about the game, didn't watch the game, it looked like the players came over and clapped the fans that were singing that to the players, and that wasn't the case at all. Now, I'm not going to go hysterical and scream and shout about that because I don't know why somebody would have done that. Somebody on Sky really should come out and explain why they did that, but they probably won't. But you see producers fuck things up all the time. I watch breakfast television and they can't even pull the right fucking slide up. They go like, oh, show us the fires in Spain, and they show like a picture of a poodle from Wales or something like that. Some of these producers just aren't particularly good. They don't pay much attention to what they're doing. They fuck things up. Maybe somebody just fucked something up behind the scenes on Sky, but it's not a good look in the whole situation of things. I think the powder keg that is the way Newcastle are feeling about how they've been represented in the media is really starting to bubble up a little bit, I think. And the slightest little thing, one way or another, can set people off. And I think that was one of those. I don't think it was really as bad as maybe a lot of people thought it was, but it just wound everybody up because they're so wound up already about the whole Isak thing and everything else. Massive game coming on Monday against Liverpool. That's going to be a bear pit. Whoever's looking to be that game, sadly, I will not be there, but I will be watching and jump straight on for a live post-match reaction to it. But that is something I think is going to be unbelievable in terms of the atmosphere of the game. Newcastle can really quiet a lot of this noise down by getting a result against Liverpool and really going at them, like we've seen them do against Arsenal, like we've seen them do against Chelsea, like we've seen them do against PSG. St James's Park with that crowd behind them. Newcastle need a performance like that. And if they put that in, they might just quiet a lot of this noise down about Alexander Isak and all the crap around it, because that'll be an unbelievable result for Newcastle. And I'm confident they can do it. I'll come on and give you all my preview, my patch predictions and everything else as well. But in terms of the Sky edit thing, Sky seem to be trying to engage a lot more with fans. They're speaking to Newcastle fans a lot more in the fanalysis thing, which I am part of as well. Obviously, I've got Evermore, but I'm also part of that as well. I've seen some really good people. Lady Sam was on there, did really well. The lad from Black My Band, I thought, was excellent as well. I think Ollie Hawkins has been in there from NUFC blog. So they've had some good interactions with Newcastle fans where Newcastle fans can get a voice across and their opinion across. And I'm all for that. For a long time, we've all talked about how there's just this narrative push towards the top 6 cartel clubs, kind of thing. But Sky Sports look like they're trying to reach out and talk to the fans. And that's good. That should be a positive thing. But they don't need this kind of a noise. That was a real big mistake by somebody behind the scenes. And, hopefully it'll be just an isolated incident. But I thought I'd give you my opinion on that thing. But yeah, that was silly. Very silly, I would say. But this whole situation with O'Hara, typical bullshit from him. I'm not surprised. He talks absolute nonsense. Let us know in the comments below what you think. Like and subscribe. Keep it evermore, guys. We've got loads of content this week. We've got the preview coming up for the Liverpool game. I was hoping I'd be doing a sign-in video, but I don't think I will be this week by the looks of it, the way things are going. And they'll be back live with post-match review. Me and Mark, hopefully, alongside each other to talk about a positive Newcastle United result. Fingers crossed. Have a good one. See you in the next one.
Heroes celebrate. They have done it.